The first fire came like a punishment. It began in a small wooden saloon on the waterfront. Within minutes, flames leapt from building to building, hungry, unstoppable. Men formed bucket lines, women carried water from the bay. But the fire moved faster than hope. When the smoke cleared, over 100 buildings lay in ash. They rebuilt. Quickly. Too quickly. Barely 5 months later, the flames returned. May 4th, 1850. Another inferno, fiercer than the first. Buildings made of canvas and pine vanished in minutes. People ran to the harbor. Some leapt into the bay to escape the heat. The ghost fleet glowed red in the night, their hulls reflecting the burning city. Firefighters fought with their bare hands. And when dawn came, half the city was gone. They said it was fate, but fate has a cruel sense of humor. Each time the city burned, it rose again, stronger, richer, more reckless. Ships were dragged ashore, buried in mud and turned into hotels, saloons, and prisons. The Niantic, once a proud whaling ship, became a warehouse. The Apollo, a gambling den. Below the streets, the skeletons of ships remained silent witnesses to the fever above. They called it resilience, but in truth, it was denial. They rebuilt not a city, but a habit. June 22nd, 1851, the fire that would change everything. It began at midnight, a single spark in a paint store on the corner of Clay and Kearney. The wind carried the blaze across the hills. Blocks vanished in an orange storm. Gunpowder was used to blow up buildings. Desperate men trying to create fire breaks. It didn't work. By dawn, the heart of San Francisco was gone. 3,000 buildings destroyed. $10 million lost. A city reduced to smoke and silence. For the sixth time in 2 years, the city.
Out of the ashes, a new city rose, this time in stone and steel. The fires were over, but the ghosts remained. Beneath the streets of modern San Francisco lie the bones of those ships, buried under buildings, sidewalks, and skyscrapers. The Niantic, the Apollo, the General Harrison, names forgotten by time, resting beneath banks.
Out of the ashes, a new city rose, this time in stone and steel. The fires were over, but the ghosts remained. Beneath the streets of modern San Francisco lie the bones of those ships, buried under buildings, sidewalks, and skyscrapers. The Niantic, the Apollo, the General Harrison, names forgotten by time, resting beneath banks and offices. When construction crews dig foundations, they still find them. Timbers soaked in salt, iron nails blackened by the bay. Sometimes a whalebone, a compass, a bottle sealed for a century. Artifacts of lives lost to ambition. The ghost fleet still breathes under the city, silent, patient, remembering. For every street that stands today, there is a hull beneath it. For every skyscraper that touches the clouds, there is a ship trapped below, dreaming of the sea. San Francisco stands not just on land, but on the remains of its own past. They say the city was built by those who refused to quit, but maybe it was built by those who never truly left. Yet even as the fires faded, San Francisco refused to rest. The seas still pressed against its edges, whispering through the fog like a memory that wouldn't drown. The harbor filled again, this time with iron and steam. The gold seekers became merchants and bankers and builders. The bay became a mirror for ambition, and the ghosts beneath, foundations for empire. By the late 1800s, the shoreline had shifted half a mile inland. The mud that once rocked the ships now held the weight of markets, warehouses, and railways. The old masts were gone, but their shadows lingered in the streets above, in the names, in the patterns of the cobblestones, in the smell of salt that never truly left the air. The ghosts, it seemed, were not buried, merely waiting. In 1906, the earth itself turned against the city. At 5:12 a.m., the ground convulsed, splitting streets like paper. Buildings toppled, gas mains ruptured. Within minutes, fire erupted once again, the old curse returning, this time from below. For 3 days, San Francisco burned. The sky turned red. People fled toward the bay, just as their ancestors had half a century before. And there, beneath the rubble and the smoke, the ghost fleet stirred again. The buried hulls, long forgotten, trembled in the shaking earth, their timbers flexing as if remembering waves. When the smoke cleared, 3/4 of the city was gone. Yet from the
ashes, San Francisco did what it always did. It rebuilt. The new city that rose was no longer the frontier town of gold and gambling. It was a city of architects and engineers, visionaries who looked west and saw not ruin, but rebirth. The age of timber and tar was gone. Now came the age of steel, concrete, and glass. Bridges stretched across the water, binding land to land, dream to dream. Where once ghost ships slept beneath the soil, skyscrapers now pierce the clouds. The 20th century brought new tides, not of gold, but of hope, rebellion, and reinvention. Artists, poets, and wanderers arrived, drawn by the same restless current that had once carried the sailors of 1849. The city that had burned again and again became a symbol of endurance. Earthquakes, fires, wars, nothing could kill the spirit that lived between its hills and fog. Beneath the rush of the new century, the ghost fleet slumbered still. Construction crews digging foundations struck wood where there should have been stone. They found hulls, ribs, and anchors. Entire ships entombed in earth, their names faded, their decks filled with sand. Some became museum relics, others vanished once more beneath parking lots and office towers. Each discovery was a window into another world, a frozen moment from the city's birth. And with every new find, the people of San Francisco were reminded they were walking on the bones of their own beginning. The Ninehantics remains were uncovered beneath the financial tower. The General Harrison was found under a warehouse. The Apollo, once a floating casino, now lies beneath a city street. Time had changed their shape, but not their story. These were the foundations of a dream, ships that never left, but carried the city on their backs. As decades passed, the bay continued to reclaim its secrets. The tides whispered against the piers. The wind sang through the bridges. The sound of foghorns echoed like voices calling from another century. People said it was imagination, but sometimes, when the fog rolled thick and the night grew still, the outlines of masts seemed to shimmer above the water, as if the ghost fleet had risen again. The Great Depression came, and the city endured. The Second World War turned the bay into a fortress of steel. Shipyards thrived once more. Liberty ships lined the docks, and once again San Francisco became the gateway to the Pacific. The ghosts watched in silence as new generations took their place on the waves. When peace returned, the city changed again. The 1950s brought bridges that defied imagination.
the Golden Gate and the Bay Bridge standing like sentinels over the ghosts below. The 1960s brought revolution, music, love, protest, the air filled with ideas, with hope, with the same kind of madness that once drove men to abandon ships for gold. And still beneath it all, the ghost fleet endured, patient, eternal, untouched by time. Each century carved new stories above their graves. Tech empires replaced gold empires. Silicon replaced silver. Dreams of wealth and freedom returned, dressed in modern light, but echoing the same fever that built the city in the first place. Some say San Francisco is a city of innovation. Others call it a city of illusion. But look deep enough, and you'll find it's a city of memory, one that refuses to forget what it was built upon. The ghosts beneath the streets are not curses. They are reminders. Every foundation laid in this city is a conversation between past and present, between wood and steel, between the sea and the sky. Walk along the Embarcadero on a misty morning and listen. Beneath the sound of cars and footsteps, there's another rhythm, the slow creak of a wooden hull, the faint echo of ropes, the groan of a ship rocking in invisible waves. The ghost fleet has not left. It is the heartbeat beneath the city. When the fog lifts and the sun turns the water to gold, the city gleams as if the past itself is blessing what it helped to build. They say the future belongs to those who look forward, but San Francisco's future has always been tied to those who looked back, who remembered what lies beneath. In every storm that rattles its windows, in every tremor that shakes its hills, the ghosts of the bay stir once more, not in anger, but in recognition. Because this city was never truly conquered by man. It was carved by wind, fire, and sea, and haunted by those who refused to leave its story unfinished. And so the tale continues. The ghost fleet of San Francisco, no longer visible, but always there. Beneath the concrete and glass, beneath the laughter and the lights, beneath every heartbeat that calls this city home. A fleet of ships that never sailed away. A city that rose where the ocean once.
The fog drifts in again, slow and silent, curling around the towers like a memory that refuses to fade. The bay is still, as if holding its breath. Somewhere beneath that calm surface, the ghost fleet waits, patient, ancient, listening. The city above hums with light, with laughter, with the rhythm of another sleepless night. Cars cross bridges goat on dreams, not realizing those dreams once had sails. Beneath every step, beneath every spark of neon, lies the heartbeat of ships that never sailed away. San Francisco has always been a city of echoes, where the past and the present speak the same language in different tones. The streets that gleam with rain tonight were once docks. The foundations beneath the skyscrapers were once hulls. The people chasing fortune through glass towers are no different from the gold seekers who came before them, guided by the same fever, the same horizon. There is a story beneath the surface, a story written in salt, in wood, in wind. They called it progress, but progress always comes at a price. The bay, once alive with sails and song, was buried beneath ambition. The ships that carried the dreamers were swallowed whole, entombed in earth, their names forgotten. But the sea remembers what men forget.
On quiet nights, when the tide pulls just right, the water whispers to the stones. You can almost hear the ropes tightening, the hulls creaking, the sails snapping to life. They are not gone. They are simply waiting. Every discovery proves it. A fragment of timber here, a rusted anchor there, bones of ships uncovered when the ground trembles. Each one a message from the deep, saying, "We are still here." The Niantic, the Apollo, the General Harrison. They lie beneath offices and parking lots, beneath lives that have no idea they are built on the ghosts of another world. And maybe that's how the city likes it, to stand tall, to shine while its history sleeps beneath, unseen but unforgotten. Yet every time the earth shakes, every time the sea sighs against the piers, the ghosts stir. The fog thickens, and the air grows heavy with remembrance. The city pretends not to notice, but it always does. There's a tremor in the lights, a hush in the wind, a flicker in the glass. The past never truly dies in San Francisco. It waits beneath your feet. Some say they have seen the masts in the mist, faint and shimmering, like veins of light in the fog. Others say they've heard the clang of bells where no ships dock. The skeptics call it coincidence, but those who listen, truly listen, know better. The city is alive, and so are its ghosts. Every age here builds its own mythology. The gold rush gave way to the quake to rebirth, the rebirth to revolution. From the beat poets to the coders of Silicon Valley, each wave of dreamers carries the same madness, the belief that something extraordinary waits just beyond the horizon. But beneath all of it, the ghost fleet watches. They've seen it all, the fire that swallowed the city, the bridges that dared the sea, the lights that turned night into day. And through it all, they remain silent guardians beneath the waves. Sometimes, late at night, divers hear sounds no machine can explain. Knocks, echoes, the slow creak of a ship shifting in its grave. Instruments fail for a heartbeat, cameras blur, and then nothing. Just water, just silence. But the divers emerge changed, as if touched by something vast and ancient. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's awe, or maybe it's recognition, the sense that they are not
The ocean keeps its secrets, but it never lies. Rising tides have begun to reclaim what the city stole. Storms lash the coast harder every year. Salt water seeps through the cracks of concrete as if the sea is knocking, asking to come home. When the wind howls through the bridges and foghorns moan across the bay, it sounds less like warning, more like a song. A call from the deep to the dreamers above. Remember us. And in that remembering, the city finds its soul. For every skyscraper that climbs higher, there's a shadow beneath it shaped like a hull. For every bright window that reflects the future, there's a reflection of the past hidden in the glass. San Francisco is not just a city. It's a story built on stories. A living palimpsest where each era writes over the last, but never erases it. The gold seekers, the builders, the rebels, the coders, all ghosts in their own time, all part of the same endless voyage. The storm of a century came once, and with it a revelation. As lightning cracked over the bay, witnesses swore they saw the masts again, dozens of them, black against the light, drifting across the water with impossible grace. Phones captured nothing but fog. But the next morning, the shoreline was littered with fragments of oak and iron, carved with names no one had spoken in 100 years.
The city shrugged it off, but deep down it understood. The ghosts had risen, not to haunt, but to remind. They remind us that everything built must one day return, that every beginning carries the memory of its own end. The ghost fleet is not a curse, it is continuity, the proof that no dream ever truly dies, it only changes form. What was once a harbor of ships is now a harbor of ideas. What once carried sailors carries signals. What once shone with lanterns now glows with screens. Yet the pulse is the same, the restless rhythm of those who chase the horizon, forever building, forever breaking, forever beginning again. Sometimes the ghosts take new shapes, in the glow of neon signs reflected on wet streets, in the hum of streetcars rolling past midnight, in the fog that curls like smoke around the old clock tower. Listen closely, and you'll hear it.
Because San Francisco was less a city of wood and more a city of kindling. Prefabricated pine boards, tar paper walls, and canvas roofs lined narrow, muddy streets. And when the winds swept down from the Pacific, the whole city became a tinderbox under siege by its own greed. Between December 1849 and June 1851, the city didn't simply burn once, it burned 6 times. The first fire struck on Christmas Eve, 1849. It began, almost poetically, in a saloon. With no fire department, only frantic bucket lines, the blaze devoured $1 million in property overnight. But by dawn, the merchants were rebuilding, using the same brittle lumber, even closer together than before. 5 months later, a second fire consumed the entire waterfront. 3 blocks gone, $4 million lost. Yet again, the city rose from the ashes, unshaken, unwise. Then came May 4th, 1851, the night that changed everything. It started at 2 in the morning in a small bakery on Portsmouth Square. Within minutes, gale-force winds turned the flames